We're all about furious gods, murderous farm girls, drama on the geriatric ward, horror in the morgue, and the inner workings of the porn industry this week. I'm Van Connor.
And I'm Adam Ball, and this is Off Screen, your 7-day guide to everything movies.
Boom.
Groovy.
All right then, and welcome back to another episode of Off Screen. We got more new movies to talk about today, and we are going to start all the way back in 1918 with a movie called Pearl. Talk to me about this, Van.
Yeah, okay, so I'm just trying to pull up the actual, because I couldn't remember how long ago X was, technically. This is the prequel to a movie called X, which I think we reviewed together. I think it was last year, it was 2022, but I believe it might have actually come out in 2021. It was doing the rounds on the horror circuit for a couple of years, and it was from director Ty West, who's just one of those names who's been on the horror scene for a good long while. He's kind of a lower tier recognition horror auteur, like a Mike Flanagan grade auteur. You know, these guys who everything they drop is the business, but they never seem to actually do good business at the box office. They never quite catch over into the mainstream, but they're respected in the field. The horror fans know who they are. He's one of those names. You know what I mean? It's like I say, best comparison. I mean, arguably someone like Ari Aster, I think, would be a bit higher tier. Anyway, so Ty West did this film a couple of years ago, X, which you and I reviewed, and was about a group of filmmakers and actors and actresses who made adult films. The movie was set in the early 1980s during the VHS boom, and it saw them hire a farmhouse that they then went to film using costumes and basic set dressing a number of adult films. And, you know, as day turns into night, they're all hunted and picked off one by one, and it's all the machinations of the creepy old lady who owns the farmhouse, whose name is Pearl, and she was played by Mia Goth, who also starred, weirdly enough, as one of the young adult actresses in the movie as well. What you now have is, and this is Hammer grade, do you know Hammer horror at all?
No.
You know the old British horror troupe, Hammer Horror. Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, Dracula.
Oh yes, I know. Yeah.
Right, they were famous for, they would borrow a stately home off a mate for a couple of weeks, and then they would go and film like 4 movies, all using the same. And they would do one movie would be set largely at daytime, one that movie would be set largely at night. And the idea was you would just get really what would come to be known as corpsman on it. You would just try and squeeze as much production value as you could out of a single location. Well, Ty West, it turns out, big fan of that idea, because whilst he's got the location for X, he's gone and made the prequel as well, in which Mia Goth gets to take off the old lady makeup and do the 1918. So we've gone from the 80s to 18 set prequel, in which she's the young farm girl wife waiting at home for her husband who's away at war. And she deals with the burgeoning psychopathy that's building up inside her, the resentment of her husband, going away, around the world, albeit, for, awful reasons. But she just wants to escape this humdrum small town at home with her parents' life. And, this is all staged as well, it's worth pointing out, as if through the lens of a roaring 20s, or 30s, golden era Hollywood flapper girl musical. And like I say, Mia Goth taking off the makeup, and so this is the third iteration of a character she'll played in this series. Have a listen to the just bonkers whimsy that you're gonna get through this. And if you're looking for a tone of reference, think Carrie by way of Baby Jane.
If I'm meant to live out the rest of my days with you and Daddy on this farm, then so be it. But I'm only young once. If I go to this audition and I don't get picked, then I'll come home and I'll never speak of it again, I swear. But I have to know that I tried, or I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life. Please, Mama, you have no idea what I'm capable of.
Oh, yes, I do. I've seen the things you've done in private. You believe no one is watching. You think others won't notice? You can't keep your true self hidden forever, Pearl.
That really sets a really good scene in my head with like the thunder and lightning and the rain in the background. And I mean, does it reflect the 1918 period really well? It's kind of among the film.
There is a really, really clever thing they've done here. Okay, so because they've made this during the pandemic, okay, I think it's actually made in New Zealand. And if there was one place you could make a movie with serious restrictions, it turns out obviously going to be New Zealand.
Yeah.
So what they have done is they've specifically chosen to set this in 1918 because this is during the influenza outbreak of 1918. So they actually have an in-universe pandemic going. Everyone's going around wearing masks. It's a brilliant idea, absolutely inspired. That might be the greatest play of Ty West's entire career, and I say that as a fan. That is a brilliant move. Oh, just be careful, that pandemic out there. Oh yeah, I better take my mask. What a genius idea for a movie set in 1918. Right, I love this. I thought this was really good fun. Like I say, think Carrie meets Baby Jane. It's brilliant. What I will say, though, is when I make the Carrie comparison, imagine Carrie if Carrie got to the point a bit quicker. Like, because I've always found that the issue with Carrie in my head is one of pacing. By the time Carrie gets to her big breakdown moment, it's too close to the end of the movie. You don't really get to sit and live really with the emotional handling of her outburst. It's pretty much just outburst, the end, done. You know, that's Carrie. Here you get like halfway. So you get a good amount of time to fester. The performance for Mia Goth, I mean, Mia Goth is just scream queen extraordinaire. Like one of the best of this generation. She's a standout performer of our current time in the way that someone like Micah Monroe is. You know, someone like Micah Monroe, you look, that's a modern scream queen. Yes, she works in more or less any horror movie. Same exact thing here. We are getting a third one of these, incidentally, called Maxine, which I don't know if that's going to be a sequel to X or if that's going to bridge the gap between these two. You don't particularly need to have seen X to understand Pearl. I'm going to assume that you haven't seen X.
No, that was actually going to be my next question is, would I understand this if I was to dive into this? Because I really like the sound of this, but I'm not necessarily going to have the time to watch both.
Well, that's it. You don't, thankfully, need to. And I think there are a couple like visual nods because obviously the same location. It's kind of like watching the From Dusk Till Dawn sequels. You know, if you don't know, you don't know. You know, and it worked for me. It's been a while since I watched X, so I'm not particularly up to speed on the fanboy level stuff with it. I did, however, really enjoy the production design of this. I enjoyed the very specific way that it's been styled. I enjoyed the way that its story is laboured, because it is quite a traditional, quite a Betty Davis kind of a setting. Like I said, I don't make that Baby Jane comparison lightly. If you're someone that really loves twisted horror movies, you also happen to be a fan of whatever happened to Baby Jane, oh my God, watch this movie, because it had to have been an influence. It had to have been, like, hands down. And I was just giggling with glee all the way through. So I thought this was an absolute cracker. The kind of film I wish I could watch in, just watch a drop-top car in an old-school drive-in. I thought this was really, really good fun, and I think it has an absolute, not just genre high performance, but just a mainstream high performance from Mia Goth. I think she's absolutely someone to behold, and worth seeing for this alone. Like, this is just great fun. Like I say, Carrie by way of Baby Jane. Do not sleep on this. It's called Pearl, and it's in cinemas from today. If you like this and you've not seen X, you get that to watch afterwards, which is almost as much fun, but not quite.
It does appeal to me. I do like the sound of that, and like you said, the clip that you played really kind of drew me into that as well. All right, so we are going to continue in just a bit. Two movies I'm really interested in knowing more about. We're going to talk about Money Shot, the Pornhub Story, and also Play Dead, a horror thriller. And we're going to find out what Van thought of that in just a minute, so stay right where you are. And we are back. We've got a couple of other new movies to talk about now with Van Connor. So, first up, we've got the horror thriller Play Dead. Talk to me about this, because the synopsis looks great.
Yeah. Now, I mean, it's living proof that a synopsis is a synopsis for a reason. I mean, it's a synopsis and not a script for a reason, because the synopsis is way, 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 way better than the movie. Like, I almost felt bad that this wound up included in the script, if I'm being honest. So this stars Bailey Madison and Anthony Turpel. and they are a brother-sister duo who are sort of down and out. This is sort of like a 90-minute, 95? Hang on, find you the exact runtime. Oh no, it's all like 105. Sorry, I just assumed it felt long. It actually is long. 105-minute long horror-tinged thriller, which a pair of down and out, sort of, I don't know, college-age kids whose parents have recently passed and they're struggling to pay the bills, find themselves accidentally caught up in a weed store robbery in which their friend is shot, and the only evidence connecting them to it is on his phone. So, in order to get into the morgue and take the phone from evidence, Bailey Madison's character, this just sounds ridiculous to say out loud. Bailey Madison's character, because she did a semester of criminology at college or something, realizes that she can score a certain drug that she can inject into her neck with a syringe, and it will simulate the effects of death, and so they can wheel her dead body into the morgue somehow, and then she can just wake up and steal the phone and leave. However, she doesn't count on the fact that the morgue is being manned solely by Jerry O'Connell. That's right, Jerry O'Connell of Sliders fame. I know he's from Stand By Me, don't at me. Jerry O'Connell from Sliders fame, who's playing a psychotic mortician who's actually keeping people like alive in the morgue, restrained and harvesting their organs for profit, and has to escape. Have a listen.
The coroner. He's keeping people alive and selling their organs.
I do not like uninvited guests.
You are a sick man.
I'm not sick. I'm the cure.
That's got an element of Saw to it, definitely.
It wants to have an element of Saw to it. It really, really does. It would love to have an element of Saw to it. Imagine, if you will, that the Disney Channel, for no apparent reason whatsoever, just decided to make a straight-faced slasher movie. That's what you'd get if you watch Play Dead, which I mean, I'll be honest, for the first like 25 minutes of it, I was thinking, hang on, was this not meant to be a horror movie of some kind? Why does this feel like a Hallmark Channel movie? And that, I came to realize, was being charitable. Like, really, genuinely charitable. The average Hallmark movie at least contains slightly more suspense than this. This is abysmal. And it's really base level filmmaking as well. Like, they've got a half-decent DP and access to a good locale, using the Ty West theorem, really, access to a good locale. But this is not good filmmaking. There's no sense of atmosphere or anything like that to it. And it's not even as successful in terms of its tone as Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey was last week. And that was, as you remember, absolutely dreadful. This is a movie that's actually, I think, worse than Winnie the Pooh.
Wow.
Because at least with that, there was a sense that you couldn't possibly. This is, you shouldn't possibly. You know what I mean? It's
oh, no.
Theorem. And just Jerry O'Connell, I felt really bad for him all the way through this. I was just thinking, I shouldn't feel this bad for anyone who gets to go home every night to Rebecca Romaine, but I do. For having put in the effort he clearly has in this, and he's trying, and he's actually not bad in it by his own Jerry O'Connell metric. He's decent in it.
Where did it go wrong then?
The script is crap. Like I say, Hallmark Channel horror, if you can imagine such a thing. Like, Disney Channel dismemberment, Hallmark Channel horror. That's about the best way to sum this one up. It's just really bad filmmaking. I mean, points for trying, Jerry, but even you can't save this one. Sorry, buddy. And somehow this is yeah. I mean, he's better than this movie. He's better than this movie. I got to say that.
If you want to make your own mind up and go and see it, it's in cinemas from today. But just don't listen to Van if you want.
Don't make me. No, I'm sorry. No. If you decide you're going to give Play Dead a chance, Van might not know. I'm sure Van's just being harsh. He watches a lot of movies in a week. He's just jaded. No. If after all that you still go and watch Play Dead, you know what? You reap what you sow. You get what's coming to you.
I would love someone to comment after watching it to tell you that they thought it was an absolutely brilliant movie. That would be hilarious. So please do comment if you have seen it and you think it's great. On to the next one. Now, I've always wondered how it works. This is called Money Shot.
Yes, Money Shot, the Pornhub Story, which, directed by Suzanne Hillinger, is an insight into the formation of the now iconic internet porn hub, effectively. It's not just a clever title. It is effectively the internet's porn hub. It is the YouTube of pornography. But at the same time, it's also its own sort of micro industry in and of itself. Or at least, one of the very front-facing sides of an industry. It also does not come without a certain element of real-world controversy. It's been tied up in human trafficking allegations and things like that the past few years, being accused of profiting from child sex trafficking and various safe elements and crimes, criminal misdeeds like that. And this is the documentary that attempts to spool that all into one definitive tone. However, despite the fact that it's called the Pornhub Story, as you'll quickly discover, it is also in part the OnlyFans story as well, because you can't talk about Coke without talking about Pepsi, especially when Coke is the gateway drink that leads all to Pepsi. Have a listen.
I was pretty reliant on what management was willing to say about it. All we were told was none of it's true.
This industry is going to get cleaned up.
They neglect to see that sex work and sex trafficking are two completely different things.
Sex workers in general were deplatformed across the internet.
72% of us lost our income.
If it wasn't for porn, I probably wouldn't be alive.
It's not just an attack on porn, it's an attack on people being able to express themselves.
And the people who get left in the dust are porn performers.
It's always been a hot topic, sex sells, and I don't know how true this is, but I'm pretty certain that I read that when there was the battle between VHS and Betamax, the reason that VHS won is because the porn industry put out their movies on VHS, and therefore bye-bye Betamax.
That is actually true. That is actually true.
Wow.
It is very true that it's on several different occasions over the years since the actual future of home entertainment mediums has in fact been decided by the adult film industry, which there you go. I forget what the I think they got it wrong on Blu-ray versus HD DVD though, if memory serves. I think
yeah.
DVD and then turned out to be Blu-ray. Right. This feels like a very perfunctory documentary at times. It didn't, for what I had read on the case through, other stories of Pornhub over the years, through just mainstream media, just through your various pieces in The Atlantic and your Guardian exposés, and just what I had read in general media. This didn't specifically add anything new to me, and I wouldn't exactly say I'm well storied on, the history of Pornhub as a legal entity. You know what I mean? Obviously, I'm familiar with the company Pornhub and their product.
Yeah.
I'm an adult human. I'm an adult human. Come on. But, had a couple of subscribe follows on during this at all. I'm not going to deny, but I didn't know I've never seen the Company Man video on
yeah.
So, this didn't particularly tell me much that you wouldn't have gotten through just general, I think, cultural awareness of, what Facebook are and who Twitter are and who various media companies are. So it didn't really surprise me in an awful lot of regards. What it does feel like is getting a journalistic piece about the plight of sex workers in video form, which, to be really honest, is something I hadn't seen a lot of outside of maybe Vice expose pieces. This does not have the style of those, though, or what feels like the journalistic wit. So it does feel very made for Netflix. It does feel like what it is, which is a 95-minute fluff documentary that you just crack on if you're a documentary fan like me. Like, oh, I've not seen one on Pornhub, no, watch that one. It is what it is. This was never intended for theaters or anything like that, or theatrical distribution. This is not going off for film festivals or anything like that. It is a made-for-streaming documentary. Never particularly rises above that station. It's not one that's stocked with celebrity cameos or anything either. It does pick its subjects, and I believe one or two may be reasonably well known based on more apparently their follow accounts. But it's an interesting enough piece of trivium, 3-star doc. kind of nothing too sparkly. It does what it says on the tin.
Okay, well, that is Money Shot, the Pornhub story, and it is out on Netflix already. Actually, it came out on Wednesday, if you want to go and watch that. We are going to talk in a moment about Shazam, Fury of the Gods. Van, before we do that, one word to describe that movie, which you've already seen.
Which was Shazam, Fury of the Gods. There's only one word you can say. Shazam!
Hello and welcome back. So, sticking with more brand new movies out this week, we're going to talk about Allelujah very soon. But first, Shazam, Fury of the Gods. So, yes, he is back. Billy Batson. Now, talk to me about this, Van. Good movie? Worth going to see?
I mean, I'm a big fan of the very first Shazam. I wasn't feeling it with the excitement with this going into it because there's a DC films are what they are. You know what I mean? There's no reason to get excited just because you like one does not mean you like its own sequel in this brand. So I wasn't terribly excited about it. And I'd say worth-ish. I would say it's definitely it's more of what you liked. Give it that, I guess. Right, let me get into it then. Okay, so Shazam Fury of the Gods seems to take place about 2 years after the first one. Have you seen the first Shazam?
Now, I haven't seen it yet, but what I will say is Sky are offering the first Shazam as a free download at the moment. I don't know how long that will last for. So if you want to watch that first, get downloading it now so that you've got it saved on your hard drive and you can watch it at will. I've downloaded it, haven't watched it yet.
Absolutely do that as well, because the first Shazam is like probably the best movie of the DCEU, if we're being real. I reckon. Anyway, I think so, because it's like big with superheroes, which I'm down for. And Zach Levi, I was a fan of him from Chuck. Zach Levi as Shazam, I think is really, really good casting. I'm happy to say that quality continues here as well. He's like one of the best things. He's far and away one of the best things about the sequel, Fury of the Gods. So, like I say, 2 years after the first one. Are you familiar with the basic premise of this, Adam? How this character works?
Very roughly. I read the synopsis before I downloaded it and decided to download it.
Orphaned teenage boy living in a foster home. When he says the word Shazam, he is imbued through the crack of lightning with an adult body and all of the superpowers that come with it, which are the powers of the gods. So, and each letter of Shazam is one of them. So the Z is for Zeus, You get the idea. I forget who they are. I think Achilles might be one of them. Anyway, so they're all different gods. He gets all of their powers. Whenever he says Shazam, now his foster brothers and sisters have those powers as well, because they have assumed the powers of the other gods. So we have the full Shazam family, which is really, really deeply rooted comic book lore. Like Mary Marvel is something that Alan Frank would joke about. So it gives you an idea how far back that goes.
Yeah.
So it's now a couple of years later. Billy's a couple of months off turning 18 and effectively aging out of the foster care system. As this weighs heavily down upon him, he and his sibling squad, effectively, they're sort of sibling squad, a team, but they're also foster siblings. They are each pursuing their own individual sort of pursuits. Freddie, who's always been sort of living with disability, has always been sort of overlooked, is getting to feel the thrill of being the center of attention for a change, getting to actually have power and getting to actually feel what it is to be the alpha for a change. Mary is looking at separating out and going to college and things like that. And into this mix come the daughters of the gods, played by Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu.
Brilliant.
That's all I'll say on them for now. There is a bit more to it than that. But who come along and basically they want the powers of the gods for themselves and basically just come after the Shazam family. Have a listen.
The other champions.
Shazam!
Are they children like yourself?
No, because nobody's stupid enough to grant primordial godlike powers to a bunch of kids.
We are at war.
I don't even know you, lady. Whoa! Where's everyone going?
To fight crime?
Okay. You are a lost boy.
I'm gonna be 18 in like 5 months. I love my life.
Is Helen Mirren typecast in this? Because I find most of the movies that she's in, she's always playing the same kind of character.
Well, I mean, it does feel like, as soon as you get told Helen Mirren, as soon as I tell you the role that Helen Mirren is playing, you can kind of imagine exactly how it's going to be played, and she doesn't disappoint. It's exactly how it's played. It doesn't have it's not got the fun of like her turn in the Fast and Furious movies, where at least she gets to have a little wink to camera. None of that. It's a straight comic book villain. And I'll be honest with you, this felt a lot to me like Deadpool 2, in that I really like Deadpool. The first Deadpool movie from, I think it's 2016. I really like it. I think it's a great movie. In the same way, nearly, that I think that Shazam is a really great movie. It's something different. Although it's playing with a worn formula, and it is obeying that formula, it's having fun with it in a quirky and offbeat and irreverent way. The way that Deadpool then segged into Deadpool 2 is exactly the same tonal manner in which Shazam does as well. It feels like it feels as well that we're kind of watching a film that's on borrowed time to an extent. Like, a lot of it feels like we know we're going to be phased out. Like, no one knows what's going on with any of these movies. They're going to be gone next year. None of this continuity will matter. Just recycle the same sets from the last movie. That's it. There is one new addition which kind of looks strangely like the subway car sequence from the subway car lair from the Turtles movies. When they have that New York subway underground, kind of like that with the arcade machines. They've got this like Shazam lair, which feels very HBO Max, if we're being honest. It's bizarre that a movie that looks this cheap can cost as much as it does. That's another thing. But it is being held, it's being held aloft largely through the charm of Zach Levi. And the problem is that Zach Levi's charm is not necessarily heavy enough to carry this all the way by the numbers, because there's no real subversion to this. Everything is just, did you like that bit in the last movie? We're just going to do more of that. And it does feel like that kind of a spin, in the same way that Deadpool definitely did that.
So the storyline isn't enough to really get you absorbed and take you through for a decent ride, then? It gets a bit boring.
Not really, because the mythology element of Shazam was something nobody cared about in the first movie. I don't think anyone can remember the plot of the first movie. I can't. He fought Mark Strong. I almost said Matt Strong, which, case in point. Like, I didn't even remember it was Mark Strong. There you go. But you didn't care, because it was about the story of Shazam, and you were more entrenched and more rooted in that emotional journey. The journey of becoming the superhero was tied with the story of his emotional growth. Does not feel that way this time. Like, you do not have that intertwined arc, that pair of intertwined arcs that build to something that was really satisfying. I mean, the first movie pulls off a frankly ridiculous coup in giving all of the siblings the powers at the end. And in hindsight, it almost feels like what happened with the Shrek movies, where the Shrek producers have said, if we knew we were going to do sequels, we wouldn't have gotten them married at the end of the first one, because it wrote us into a corner that we've never really been able to get out of. And you feel like they did that with the first Shazam movie. This feels way more disparate, way less focused this time around. Although, I will say, there's going to be an entire section of the internet that comes alive entirely for Megan Good doing what is effectively baby talk. Because Megan Good has to behave like she's got an 11... Yeah, Megan Good has to behave like she's an 11-year-old girl. Yeah, Megan Good, who is just a 40-something goddess of a woman, has to speak and act like a superpowered 11-year-old girl. And that is creepy as a fan of Megan Good. That's all I'm going to say.
It sounds to me like they just made a sequel for the sake of making a sequel in the hope it would bank some cash, then, from what you've said so far.
I mean, Grace Caroline Curry, do you know what? She gets some more time in the spotlight here because she's the oldest of the siblings, so she kind of gets to keep her childhood form as, adult hero as well, because she's now actually at adult age. So she gets to kind of stay looking the same. The rest then gets to be played by different actors. Incidentally, you know how they change into different actors? So Asher Angel turns into Zach Levi when he says Shazam.
Yeah.
Jack Dylan Grazer becomes Adam Brody. Well, you've got Adam Brody and you've got DJ Catrona as two of the Shazam family. They were both members of George Miller's cancelled Justice League movie from 15 years ago. When we had the writer's strike back in 2007, 2008, there was a Justice League movie would have, you know, radically changed like how we had the DC movies. And it was based on Justice League Mortal, Tower of Babel, I think it was. Got loosely adapted as Justice League War or Justice League Mortal or Justice League Doom or some animated show. And it was a pretty good script, and it had all the characters in it. Adam Brody was going to play the Flash. DJ Catrona was Superman, I believe. And if you want to know how long ago this was, Armie Hammer was Batman for this movie. That's how long ago this was. And they were going to film it in Australia. It was about to happen. And then the writer's strike kind of put paid to it, and it's been lost to history. So at least we get some sort of thematic redemption with this. Two of the Justice League are back in the DCU. There is also, I will say, there are post-credits cameos in this.
Always.
That, you know, naturally with these kind of things, there's two. There's one in the middle, one at the end. If you like the first one, you'll like this, but you'll like it slightly less. If you didn't like the first one, you ain't going to like this, because it really is just more of the same. It's same formula without the charm, I think. Even though they're trying, Zach Levi's not got quite the heft to bring it home.
And do you have to watch the first one to understand this one, or could you dive straight into this one?
I would say you probably need to, because it is one of those, it is a part 2 sequel. It is basically, oh, you did that in the last movie, well, that's done this now. And it's one of those.
Well, there's an excuse to try and find it. Well, the free download's happening on Sky at the moment, then, so you can get the first one on your hard drive, ready to watch before you watch this one. Shazam! Fury of the Gods, which is out in cinemas from today. We are back in a moment when we talk to Van about Allelujah, which is well, I've got to be honest, the synopsis doesn't sound that much fun from what I've read. I'm not going to read. I won't read it to you now. I'll read it to you in a second. But yeah, we'll talk all about it in just a bit. So stay right where you are. Hello and welcome back to Offscreen. So one last movie to talk about this time round. That is Allelujah, which is out in cinemas from today. I did mention earlier, just a moment ago, that the synopsis I read on this, with my little bit of prep I managed to do before we chat, didn't really draw me in. This is what it says. The story of a geriatric ward in a small Yorkshire hospital threatened with closure. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, if you added the words based on a play by Alan Bennett after that, you'd be like, oh, there, that loops the sentence off. That ties that sentence off nicely. It all makes sense now. Yeah, it didn't say that though, did it? No.
Nope.
So yeah, that's exactly what you've got. It is, in fact, the story of a geriatric ward in a small Yorkshire hospital that is threatened by closure, and it is based on a play by Alan Bennett. As part of the drama of this hospital facing closure, they have a documentary filmmaker crew in that's cataloguing their efforts to save the hospital. And what you get as part of the story is Judi Dench, criminally wasted as one of the residents, one of the longer-term residents of the geriatric hospital, who's been given an iPad and told to go around and document life on the ward from her perspective. Yeah, have a listen.
Swipe on the icon like we did before, with greater gentleness, as though you've seen a speck of dust and wish to brush it away. You put us all out of a job.
I said that to my computer the day they digitalised the library. I was at the forefront of modernisation. Well, what do you wish me to record?
Well, the filmmakers say they simply want your point of view. For you to record what you see, to tell them what your life is like.
I could tell you something about that chair, only I won't.
That sounds remarkably like me when I go and see my mum and she's got a new mobile phone that needs setting up.
Mine too, actually.
Who doesn't love a bit of Dame Judi Dench? We say that every time.
Well, as it turns out, the answer to that is director Richard Eyre. Because she's got naff all screen time in this. She's criminally wasted. As is, pretty much everyone in this movie is wasted. The movie itself is wasted. What an absolute shambles of a film. Wow. Okay. To put this in context for you, I saw this Tuesday afternoon, I think it was, before Shazam, and I found myself stood outside the Charlotte Street Hotel with Kermo, just hands in our heads, just like rocking back and forth, trying to work out what the hell it is we just watched. So, for the longest time in this, it's effectively like the best exotic marigold hospital. best way to describe it. It's a dramedy group of older patients in this geriatric ward in a hospital facing closure. Cool. Then it becomes about Russell Tovey's character, whose father is one of the patients there, works for the health secretary, and it's seemingly about him coming round and his efforts to save the hospital. Then it's about something else that if I actually describe to you, you won't believe I'm talking about the same movie. Then it's about something else that if I actually tell you, you won't believe I'm telling you about the same movie. And you're watching it all thinking, if it weren't for the fact that this is about a sour-faced, miserable and moping an affair as it could possibly be, I wouldn't even think this was Alan Bennett, because this is all over. What the hell is going on? And don't get me wrong, its final note that it chooses to go out on is very much, someone's given Alan his Ovaltine again. It's one of them days. Hey, Alan's got another sermon, ladies and gentlemen. And yeah, you can. Oh God, I understand. It's one of those times when I understand what it must feel like to most people when they watch something by Aaron Sorkin, because that's how I felt watching this. I was like, oh God, Alan Bennett had that through this. It's an absolute mess of a film. The performances are very good. Like Derek Jacobi, for instance, the performances are very good, but what little of them makes it to the screen, it's a drop in the ocean of a much messier, much more ramshackle film. I mean, Bally Gill takes over the role here for the screen, apparently from Sacha Dhawan on the stage. And I can see how this character would have worked, our lead here would have worked. You could hear him in the clip there, how that might have worked, understand how Sacha Dhawan's general performance style goes. Here it just doesn't play, and it just comes across as a bit saccharine, a bit too naive. As for Jennifer Saunders does the best she have with what she has to work with, which is a nice way of saying that I can't properly condemn her without revealing certain things about the story. Suffice to say, it's an absolute dog's dinner of a movie, an absolute shambles, and it's completely befitting the state of the NHS. That's what I'll say. Yeah.
When you say
that might be Alan Bennett's best trick. Actually, it is about as good a movie as the state of the NHS.
When you say, or said at the start about kind of having one thing happen and then it moves on to something else and something else weird happens, are these incidences, are they connected in any way, or is it really as random as you describe?
It really is random. It really is. I mean, I don't know how to do this without doing spoilers. Right. I'm going to completely flip the script. Right. Just imagine, just for comparison, you're watching a drama set in a school. Okay, imagine you're watching a dramedy set in a school, okay? Wasn't a particularly great one, and it kept having all these diversions. And then just out of the blue, there was a serial arsonist. Just out of the blue. You're watching a dramedy, a real-world set dramedy that was about a school in Basildon. And then, just out of the blue, there's an arsonist. A serial arsonist who's just burning loads of buildings. Just imagine that, and how weird that would feel. That's how it feels watching this Alan Bennett adaptation. Those are words I have just said out aloud in 2033.
Wow. I mean, it's one of those reviews, really, that sounds so bad, I kind of want to watch it.
Well, do you know, we mentioned him a little while ago. Alan Frank once told me the greatest way you can flub your way through any review is you use the phrase... To say any more would be to spoil it for you, or to give any more away would be to spoil it for you. So just say that, and people will naturally just excuse you because they think you're doing it for their own good, and you just get away. I'm like, never thought about that. The only time I've ever had to do it was Cabin in the Woods.
Was that because you didn't get to the end?
No, it's just because you can't, beyond the first 20 minutes of Cabin in the Woods, you can't really talk about it. It's like From Dusk Till Dawn. Yeah. If you tell people about the point at which From Dusk Till Dawn pivots from being one movie into another,
I see. Yeah, no, complete spoiler then, isn't it? And not worth
Yeah.
anyone actually going to watch it themselves. Well, there you go then. Allelujah, if you want to watch it, it's out today in cinemas.
Don't.
But on Van's advice, like many movies this week, don't. Well, let's see if that continues next week, because we're going to be talking about Infinity Pool.
Yes, and I am very, very excited about Infinity Pool, because guess who stars in Infinity Pool, who we've already talked about this week? Only Mia Goth. Mia Goth is in this. It also stars Alexander Skarsgård, and it's the latest film from Brandon Cronenberg, son of David, who gave us Possessor a couple of years ago, which you might remember I was a really, really big fan of.
Yeah. 80 for Brady as well. I don't know anything about that.
Do you know who Tom Brady? You know,
No.
The NFL quarterback Tom Brady, like regarding.
Oh yes, okay, yeah, I do.
Like
yeah.
one of like the best to ever play the game, you know, by all
Yeah.
accounts. And it is the story of 4 80-something ladies who go to the Super Bowl to see their hero Tom Brady, their favorite player Tom Brady, win the Super Bowl. I have seen it, and it's really something. It's a lot like what you'd get if you smash together The Book Club and that Simpsons episode in which they go to the Super Bowl. Like, imagine that. Imagine like Diane Keaton kind of going to the Super Bowl, and that's kind of what you get with this. Yeah. So we're going to talk about that next week. That's and there is a certain celebrity cameo in that, like how The Hangover has Mike Tyson. There is one for 80 for Brady, and if you don't know it, you're in for a good time next week.
Well, you'll have to make sure that you subscribe to this podcast to make sure you get next week's episode to find out. Also, see that sales pitch I did there for you, Van?
I did.
A Good Person, another movie that's out next week.
Queen Flo. Queen Flo, Florence Pugh, in a new movie from Zach Braff. So I don't know what to expect, other than it's got Florence Pugh in it and her ex-boyfriend's directed it. So I don't know if that automatically means it was a good movie. But
you'll be happy.
Yeah. At least Queen Flo's back on screens. Next week we've also got The Beasts, which is meant to be like a Straw Dogs type thing, foreign language film. I think it's maybe Spanish. And it's meant to be a bit like Straw Dogs. I'm really looking forward to that. But of course, you know what I'm looking forward to more than absolutely anything next week? It is a 3-hour-long action movie sequel. It is John Wick Chapter 4, baby. Wick, Yen, Adkins. Oh, pour this in me.
The last time I sat in a cinema for that long was to see Titanic in 1990-something.
I was about to say, did you go to the 25th anniversary thing recently? Like, I just didn't expect that of you.
No, I didn't. But I did see Titanic 3 times when it first came out in the 90s. I took a different girlfriend each time. Yeah.
Oh, you dog. Well, I don't know if you'll be taking 3 dates to see John Wick 4,
no.
But should you get the opportunity, a fair play to you, sir. I commend your efforts.
Mate, I struggle to get 1 date these days, let alone 3.
Well, you know what? At least when you do now, you have a movie you can take her to see when John Wick 4.
Absolutely. Well, all of those to talk about next week, and we will be back on Off Screen. Until then, I've been Adam Ball.
I've been Van Connor, and we shall return.